Okay, it's Ben and Karen Meek, and first I want to talk a little bit about the history, and Karen's history is earlier than mine, so I'll let her go first.
Okay, my maiden name is Burgess. I'm Karen Burgess, married Ben Meek, and I grew up here, moved to Wamego in 1962 when I was in 6th grade. So at that time, the Wamego Library is where the current police station is, and that's where my first memories came from. I remember Lucille Mize and Mrs. Leonard, who worked there. It always had this really family, calm, sweet, comforting feeling at the library. I checked out books on fiction about nurses because I knew I wanted to become an RN, and so I remember doing that in the summers and enjoying it. I remember those little crinkly covers to the books, those little plastic covers that were on them, and so that was my early memories of the library.
All right, and so we got married in 1970, and in 72 we moved back to Wamego. I took a job at the Kaw Valley State Bank, which is, we're sitting in the vault right now. And so after a year of being here, the bank was growing a bit, and you know, we needed more space. We just had this half of the current building, and so we began to make plans to expand. So one of the projects was the vault door, which is a nice, you know, attractive vault door, was on this side of the vault, away where you couldn't see it, and we thought, well,
Facing north, facing that.
yeah. So we thought, well, while we're remodeling and so forth, let's move the vault door around to where, when you walk in the door, you see the vault door. And so then the problem with that was that they had to, you know, jackhammer the door out, and so there was a few days where there was a hole in the vault. Meanwhile, here's all of everybody's safe deposit boxes and so forth. And so my Uncle Frank Meek and I took turns sleeping down here in the bank, and you know, the double barrel shotgun and army cot, and Karen even joined me on the...
Yes, 25 days before my daughter was born, it was the 4th of July, when the carnival's in town, and not supposedly the most secure time to have a vault open. So here I was, you know, 3 weeks before delivery on an army cot with a shotgun with my husband. Like, what were we going to do if somebody stormed in?
So it worked out, and if you take a picture of the vault door now, you'll see that it's a very nice thing to have it facing the entry.
Nice, shiny,
now,
pretty door.
At this point in time, what we're trying to do is combine the two buildings. So the building next door was the old drugstore, and
that was 1973.
So in 1973, we're trying to figure out how to remodel the bank building, and unfortunately, one building had stone, the other had brick. They had different floor levels, and by the time the architect got done talking about how we would have to open up the wall and change all the load-bearing parts of the construction, his thought was we ought to just pretty much tear the building down and start over again. And so what you see now is you know, what we ended up with in 1973. And one of the things about this project I'm excited about is if we can come back and put the new building, the new library, in back to the look of the old downtown, that would really please me. But it was an adventure to take all of our stuff. We wheeled the old Cannonball Safe across the street to what's now the city building. That had been the Baldersons' offices of their company, and they'd had a fire, and it didn't do a lot of damage, but enough that the Baldersons moved out and decided to do something different. The building was available, so we rented it for the time while we were doing construction, and so, you know, we had to go in first and try to get the smoke smell out of the carpets over there, and so it wasn't what I would call an ideal situation, but it was only the 6 or 8 months while we were doing the construction. So.
And what was the Cannonball Safe used for? Just daily,
that's
daily
where
cash.
the cash was.
Every day, so you'd wheel it back at night.
I know, we wheeled it over there.
And kept it.
That building was originally the Wamego State Bank, so it had a vault also.
Oh, yeah.
So we just put our Cannonball vault in there, our safe in their vault, and so that's where the cash was, and so that Cannonball Safe is now down in the Historical Society building. You can see it down there if you'd like to. So that was 1973, and during the period in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, this was where we did the banking business, and so here again, as the bank grows, we begin to talk about, do we move in, try to get the building next door and continue going, and it just seemed like it was going to be limited enough that it would be wise to make a move, and so our new bank building was built out on Highway 24 by the second green of the golf course is where the bank sits now.
And what year was that?
And that was 2000.
2000.
And Ed Martin was, we were in St. Mary's, had started a new bank down there, so it was Ed Martin's project to get.
We means Ben and Karen.
Yes.
The nurse banker.
Yes, so that was an adventure too, but that doesn't have anything to do with this. So at that point in time, so what do you do with the building? And probably, there's two parts of that. One part is we knew the library facilities were very limited and could visualize something, just a lot better for the community. This is a great visible corner on Main Street, so the visibility of the library would draw a lot more traffic. And so on the other hand, we kind of didn't want another bank from out of town to see this location and think, well, we can just move right in, they've got a drive-up window. And so it just kind of made sense for several reasons just to donate the building to the library. And here again, this was mostly Ed Martin's duty. I was still on the board, but we were spending most of our time in St. Mary's at that time. So that was 2000. Another little story I want to tell. One of the things that I particularly appreciate here is the children's program. And when my father died, some of the things that we sorted through and wondered what to do with. One was a kind of a small child's, a circular bench. You could put about almost a dozen children on this little Sunday school bench. And so we inquired as to whether the library could use that with their children's program, and they agreed, and Larry Fector did some work on the bench, and as far as I know, it's still down in the basement being used by the children. So that warms my heart. So that would have been 100 years ago that my father would have sat on that.
Ben's father was born in 1907, so
yes,
a long time ago. Childhood Sunday school bench, yes.
So now, in this current history, I'll let Karen tell you how she makes use of the library now.
About 5 years ago, we moved from Manhattan to be back at my home, my childhood farm home, north of Wamego. So we are about between a 16 to 20 minute drive, depending on the traffic, from town. So we might have a meeting going on after an appointment, so it's convenient for me to use this as a stopover place when there's a lull of an hour or so, because it's a 20-minute drive back home. So I come in here and read the local newspapers, because one of the disadvantages of living in the country is you don't get the newspapers delivered out there 12 miles from town. And sometimes Ben will have an appointment or a meeting and I ride in with him, so I can come here, hang out, read, and I enjoy either bringing a book, getting a book from the library, reading the papers or the magazines, or sometimes I've even brought a little scrapbook project and sat at the table and done those kind of things. So I can look at Wamego High School yearbooks and fun things when I'm here.
Okay, and my most recent career, which I'm just retiring in a week, was my counseling practice. And in conversation with couples, quite often I find they have differences that sometimes come to play. And one of the traditional things that Karen and I fall into is we tend to like different television shows. And so when we can come here, rent a movie that we both agree on, that's a good thing for our marriage. So that's another service the library provides that we make use of.
You also use the library in between meetings yourself, when you
Yes.
have, come read the paper.
Yes, so, what else?